adjourn from executive session, or actually come back from executive session. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the city council met in closed session with respect to item 1 on the agenda, anticipated litigation, 3 potential cases. No action was taken, nothing further was discussed, nothing further to report. With respect to the second item on the agenda, public employee performance evaluation, no action was taken, nothing further to report, nothing else was discussed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
With that, we'll adjourn from executive session, and we will reconvene as the Selma City Council regular meeting, January 22nd, 2019. I apologize, I have a slight cold. I feel great, but my voice doesn't feel great. I'm gonna try to make myself understood. If you don't get it, if you don't hear what I'm saying, just ask me to repeat it. We are also going to open as the successor agency to the dissolved Selma Redevelopment Agency special meeting, January 22nd, 2019 at 6 p.m. This is something we have to do due to the dissolution of the Redevelopment Authority. We are the Selma Redevelopment Agency successor agency, and we have to meet occasionally to do business as that. So we'll go back and forth with that. With that, we will have our invocation led by Father Guadalupe Rios of St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Father Rios.
I invite us to all interiorly invoke the God in whom we believe in, the God we worship, the God we serve. And as we do so, let us keep in mind and heart Octavio Gonzalez's family, and especially let's keep in mind the eternal repose of Octavio, who was laid to rest on January 14th. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Eternal Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, ever faithful, ever merciful, we gather as a community, we gather as your people. And as we stand in this hour of prayer, we invoke you as a community. We call out your name. We ask, we plead, we implore you to make yourself present this night, as you did that first Christmas Eve. For unto us, Emmanuel, the Prince of Peace, was born, Jesus. Be here with the power of your divine spirit, your divine love, your divine mercy, your divine peace. And place those gifts of yours within us, your public servants, your elected officials, your peacekeepers, enforcers of law and order, your clergy, your priests, religious and spiritual leaders, your community, your people. O Prince of Peace, be present with your divine light. Cast from this place the spirit of the enemy, dislodge he who is the father of lies. Let not the voice of the majority prevail, but the voice of justice, the voice of your Son, our Lord Jesus. May he speak into the silence of our hearts this evening, and with his grace, may we do as our Blessed Mother Mary said to the servants at the weddings at Cana, do whatever he asks of you. Together we say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you, Father. Jim.
Everybody, please stand for the pledge of allegiance flag.
Okay, could you call the roll for both the city council and for the successor agency, please? Sorry, can you call the roll for both the city council and the successor agency tonight, please?
Councilmember and Board Member Avalos,
Here.
Garrett,
Here.
Trujillo,
Here.
Here.
Mayor Robinson,
Here. Okay. Potential conflicts of interest, and this refers to both groups. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest. Does she need to call us chairperson, and is that okay? All right. So with that, we'll go to thank you for bringing that up as a potential. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest may announce the item now and recuse themselves from discussing or voting on the matter. None stated. We will move to oral communications. There are two different verbiages.
Mr. Mayor, you could at this time just take the oral communications for the council, and at
Okay.
the end of the meeting, we can do the successor agency if you're comfortable with that.
Thank you. Notice to the public, at this time, any member of the public may address the city council on any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item that's not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review, and that is due to the Brown Act. Members of the public would please attempt to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. I would call for oral communications now, but I would say that during our next item on goal setting, if you're planning on addressing public safety, that will probably come up at the next item. So if anybody has anything other than that they would like to discuss, please come up at this time.
Try to do this fast. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I wanted to come up here today and present something to Mike Kushner from the Parks and Recreation. This is a brief picture I'll hold up. 30 club members from the Boys and Girls Club attended Great America's Winterfest in December. Not only did Mr. Kushner help out with the donation, there was a couple other businesses and dignitaries present Boys and Girls Club with the donation. We did a Secret Santa shopping, which was, you'd almost have to be there to see the children's faces shopping for other club members. They had a maximum of $20 to spend for each club member. And some of the club members got sweatshirts, baseball caps, earphones. It was just a delightful scene. So I wanted to take some time real quick to present this to Mr. Mike Kushner from Parks and Recreation on behalf of the Selma Boys and Girls Club. Without your donation, 30 children from the area of Selma would not have gotten a chance to go to Great America. And it was really fun, really great event. Thank you, sir.
Just to clarify, so I don't take credit for everything, this is the grant from Kaiser Permanente. So make sure, Kaiser Permanente has donated $10,000 for the last 2 years for kids, for $75 per program. So we allocated some funds for them to take the trip.
So I'm going to try and do this real fast. Our goals for the Boys and Girls Club in 2018, our membership attendance was 260. We had a goal of 268. We hit 97% of our goal. That's just here in Selma. Out of 19 clubs, your Selma Boys and Girls Club was #1. Okay? We were #1 dealing with kids from all over the area come to your Boys and Girls Club. Real quick, our school area attendance was 108% for the year. Our summer attendance was 118% for the year. Not only that, our female attendance was 107%. Our teen membership was at 106%. That's for the whole year. So I'm very, very proud as I stand here in front of you to announce these goals. We are less than 4 months away of being 3 years here in Selma. And it's very grateful. I no longer I am part of this community. I do live in Fresno, but I am part of Selma community. and my children, I call them my children, because I'm there 5 days a week. So I'm very proud to pass these goals on to you. Isaac, I'll forward this to you a little bit later. And have a great evening.
Thank you. And thank you for the good work you do. It's 3 years of blessing to the city of Selma. Thank you, and to the youth, and to keeping kids out of gangs and out of trouble. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
With that, is there anyone else who'd like to address the council at this time? With that, we'll move on to the city council goal-setting session. The city council, this is a city council discussion regarding council goals and priorities facilitated by Dr. Jacqueline Ryle, PhD. I don't know if any of you folks were here last year when Dr. Ryle helped us. She facilitated the discussion on Selma's vision for the future. This is like that, but it's a little more dialed back. It's a little more concise. It's a little more time-based. Some people have said this is like a pre-budget discussion for the coming budget in July. Some people have put it as, we're just getting our bearings because it's the first meeting for the year, and we want to establish goals and directions, because if you don't set them, you can't reach them, right? So we've got Dr. Ryle here to facilitate. Did you have anything to add to that, City Manager?
I think that covers it. Really it is. I'm really glad that Dr. Ryle is here to help us, and she does have extensive experience and education, a PhD in organization development. So I'm really looking forward to her making very constructive use of our time and getting the council's feedback, and we will have, as you said, opportunity for public comment once we narrow down the priority areas to the top 3. And our goal is to try and do this within approximately an hour and a half. So, but if anybody can do it, I believe that Dr. Ryle can. I'll turn it over to her to give us the kind of the parameters of moving ahead, right? Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, it's green. Hi. So thank you. Even more importantly, as you know, is that I was 32 years with the City of Fresno City Clerk's Office, 28 as a city clerk. So I have to tell you, being here is an honor. I really appreciate being back. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
So what we'd like to do is I think I'd like to ask each of you to just give me your thought, what you see as top priorities as they're coming forward. And let me scribe those up, and we'll get them all up there, and then we'll probably group a little bit. There can be some conversation, and then you can look at a process for prioritizing those. And once you've got those identified, then you can ask the public their thoughts to speak. How does that sound?
So you're going to ask us for a couple of areas.
I'm going to ask each of you to, yes, and I'll describe them on the chart.
Yeah. We're going to come back, and then after either area, we'll go to the public.
You comfortable with that, Council?
Does that sound good?
Great.
Okay.
Well, we'll just start over here and go right around the dais?
Sounds good.
Great, thank you. Okay.
So thank you. Being elected I was elected or sworn in on December 11th, and being the fact that our community is having some problems or have been the concerns of safety, public safety, I would recommend that the top priority be economic development. I understanding that we have a need for safety, but at the end of the day, we can set policy, but if we don't have the money to sustain our police department, have the actual officers, that is not helping our department. So number 1 is public safety, number 2 is economic development.
Very good. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm just going to record them as you all talk. We'll get it up here, and then I've got some dots if you want to stick on it, or you just want to say the way those cluster. So just go ahead. I threw them both up there, public safety and economic development, but on the list they're not necessarily in any priority order as yet.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So is that enough, or we keep on?
Yeah, we'll just do the general ones.
We'll get the basics, and then once everybody's given some input, you may have thought of something else in the meantime. I'm just taking kind of those broad and general areas. But if you've got more, go ahead.
I have 2 more actually.
Okay.
And this is because, again, I'm a newly elected official.
Sure.
Number 1 is going to be, number 3 would be, my goal would be to have our city manager and our city attorney to review all department heads and operational structure, because of the fact that if we have an operational structure that is not adequate to the time frames of this, as we say, computerized, we're actually losing money because we're using more staff. And if we actually reviewed our staff, we could find out if we can actually come to update our actual city staff in regards to computerized, and that's one. And the other one would be to actually have one of our auditors come into our city and audit and give us feedback as to where all of our finances and all of our financing accounting is at, and where we're actually receiving or where we're taking from and giving to when we actually subsidize shortfalls. Okay. Those are the four.
So I captured those as kind of broad and general for the moment. City manager, city attorney review, operational structure, which is what that's about.
And liabilities.
Clear operational structure, management staff, and
Liabilities.
technology.
Liabilities.
And you want liabilities in there. Let me just put that in. Those are
It's a whole heck
attendant
of
to
a
the
lot.
interests. Very good. And then the other one is financial transparency, status, and process.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Good. Good start.
You almost took everything, Johnny. It's okay. No, that's good. That's good. We're on the same page. It's good. No, really, you're right. Public safety, economic development, but they're key elements. But you know what? They go hand in hand. Without the police, fire, and but also also in that public safety, schools go involved as well.
Okay.
Schools are very important. You know, they're the future of the communities and development
Yes.
of financial, economic development, and public safety, because they go hand in hand. Because the reason why that's very important on those is because, like you say, structure of city government as far as our total structure as far as every department, even council, the morale of a city. That is a key element of all cities. How we portray ourselves as leaders and community workers in our community.
As an agency, or as a
and
community?
as
Both.
a community, because it
Okay.
goes with the churches and everybody. Everybody's involved in our community. They make the community grow or don't grow. You know.
With your permission, I'm going to say this
No,
this
go ahead.
way.
You're
Councilman,
reading my mind already.
community and city entity culture.
Yes.
The culture that you're
Yes.
working in
Yes.
and living in.
Yes.
Okay.
Could we create the environment who we are?
Yes, yes. And I wrote schools and education.
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Okay.
And also more. I like to see more community citizens involved.
Engagement.
Engagement and the communication in our and better communication in our city as far as our city government, department heads, everybody. More communication is a key factor for everybody, even citizens.
So I'm going to write this way. Community engagement, communication, internal and external.
Yeah, and also one more thing.
Yeah. See, you
Also-
didn't take it all. There's always more.
No. No. Also, I like to see our spiritual leaders more involved in our community input and communication. There's no saying we're in God's hands.
Thank you. Spiritual leader engagement and communication. Thank you. Good. Got it?
I got it.
For the moment?
No, I don't want to go anymore. I want to give to the next guy. I don't want to
Okay.
do that.
Thank you.
I got more to tell you, but that's okay.
I would like this year. I would like to have both our city manager and our attorney to review all of the city's policies, codes, ordinance, zoning, to see if they're up to date. I know it's a cumbersome process, but you know, for those out, I just became aware that our zoning ordinance hasn't been updated since 1960, and that's why. Sometimes you see why was it built there and not built there. So, but a lot of that is just bringing things up. That also ties into beautification. You know, beautification. I have so many citizens from all over this city, every area, stress. What are we doing about beautification and the blight in our neighborhoods and our streets? And a big part of that is is zoning, and I mean ordinance, code enforcement. And if our code enforcements aren't up to date or don't have the teeth to clean it up, well then, you could warn somebody 20 times and they're still not gonna change. So, if our code enforcement is not up to date and our codes aren't, let's look at that to see if we can. And then just touching on beautification, to go along with code enforcement is also empowerment. You know, what are we doing to our citizens? What if can we make any programs to help them clean up their neighborhoods and clean up their yards? I also like to see, second item is that sometime in this upcoming year that we actually sit down and do some mid to long-term planning, and compare that to our general plan to see if we're on the same page with our general plan. And can you hear me? Oh, okay. So some long-term and general planning session with the community involvement to see where we're going and how does our general plan meet what our current long-term vision is. One thing touching on Councilmember Trujillo, economic development. Like you said, you gotta know where you're at, so maybe we can see what's our sales tax leakage. If we can get a report on that and what we can do to enhance it or cut it down so that more money stays here in Selma. And not forget our emphasis on bringing some quality housing and neighborhoods to our community. And just a couple of, we have a neighborhood, I don't know how long this neighborhood been there, 60, 70 years, it has half a street. I'm talking on the intersection of Thompson and Huntsman. Everybody knows that half a street in there. Could we look at that and see if that neighborhood after 60 years, that we can give them the other half of the road? I mean, I think it's time. I think it's doable. I just think we just gotta put our mind to it, you know. Thompson and Huntsman. Thompson. And that's, oh, we're also building a major remodel of our fire station and our police station. When we do that, if we could do that in a way that will generate revenue as well as, you know, find a way to incorporate some training classes or something in that, or other services we can contract out would be nice. And I think that's it for now.
Quick recap. Review of policies, procedures, and codes for currency. Beautification of community, general, and then there's some things that fit in with that. Citizen empowerment for community environment. Mid to long-term planning. Compare to general plan, community involvement. Meet long-term vision, sort of grouped together. Economic development, status, sales tax leakage. Quality housing, street at Huntsman and Thompson, fire and police, station remodel, find ways to generate revenue. So as you can see, some of these things will cluster together.
So I want to say infrastructure, but we're only talking 1 year, but streets and roads
Infrastructure?
and sewer.
Oh yeah, good. Great, thank you.
I won't repeat what I've heard. These are great ideas.
If you like, I can asterisk next to ones. If you had them on your list, I can stick
Sure.
up an asterisk just
But
so.
public safety, number one.
Okay. Sure.
We are definitely in need of more officers. Code enforcement, we're in need of another code enforcement officer.
Okay. Okay.
We definitely need to move forward on the police station, and we need to move forward on the fire station remodel. In terms of our planning department, we need to make improvements there and deepen in general our organization chart, so that we can have more people providing top quality customer service for people who come to Selma. So they say they're treated like royalty here, and we have great customer service and great citizen service. Great citizen service is public safety. Great customer service is the planning department, the developers, and getting these projects done to bring that additional revenue. But I think as the election showed, public safety is number one, far and away number one, and economic development goes hand in hand with that, as well as city enhancement, improving the look of the city, decreasing blight, finding grant opportunities where we can to make our city shine and make it look good. And that's for all of us. We can all do that. We can all work together. And we have a group that does that very, very well. Thank you.
Okay, so I asterisked public safety, and then asterisked the fire and police station remodel, code enforcement staffing, planning department staffing and services, great customer service, and relating to revenue as well, and city enhancement, no blight, city shine, kind of part of that whole environment culture. Got it?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Well, they pretty much touched on everything. They have great ideas, but I also just want to add just to it, attract and retain Selma, encourage development.
I'm sorry, so say that again. Attract and retain,
Selma,
meaning help.
more like beautifying our downtown.
Okay, thank
because
you.
we're forgetting about our downtown.
Good, thank you.
We need more lights, speakers for music, and making our downtown feel welcome. And possibly creating a building fund to incentivize building owners to paint their buildings, considering a color coordination, making our downtown more attractive.
Okay, more? Got it?
Yep.
So, city enhance, oh, no, got that. Beautify downtown, lights, speakers for music, people feel welcome, building fund to paint, make downtown attractive. Okay, good, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I think that in my role as the city attorney, I defer to the council on your goals.
Very good.
Okay.
City manager. Would you
Thank-
like to weigh in on what you've seen in your
Thank you, Mr.
engagement so
Mayor.
far
I
with the city?
appreciate that. I agree, economic development, public safety areas we want to continue to build upon and strengthen. And of course, I'll add also community development. And I separate economic development from community development in that economic development brings in the revenue generation we need with new businesses and investment in our community so that we can do things like fund parks or help with housing development. So I add that as well. And some of the beautification projects or the downtown incentive funds that council members have talked about, that all happens through economic and community development. Then I'd also mention the infrastructure. I think that was mentioned, and I'm saying that very broadly, not only infrastructure like in our streets and sewer and things that allow development to happen and business to be conducted effectively in our community, but also internally in our organization, the infrastructure we need as far as resources, more updated technology or state of the, technology that we can use to be more effective in our jobs, resources to allow us to hire more officers or another code enforcement officer. So those types of resources that we need to look at as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I did asterisks up there with public safety and, whoops, it's kind of falling in on itself. Public safety and economic development. And then here, asterisk infrastructure and include internally as well, current technology and resources for adequate staffing in all areas. Add to beautify downtown, all that whole piece, the funding for that, community development, revenue, fund parks, housing development, and things like that. Okay, so I think I got major categories. Do any other major categories come to mind? Oh, thank you, Michael. So these will group. You can see that there can be some clusters here. And what I think I'd like to do is kind of cluster those, and as I start to cluster those, perhaps you could entertain comments from the public about their thoughts about the various areas. Would you like to do that? And then I'll get those clusters, and then you can kind of talk together about how you want to prioritize.
Let's talk about the clusters then.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first one would be public safety. Is that right? Is that a
Yes,
cluster?
yes, that's a
Okay.
large cluster. So perhaps I'll describe that as a cluster, and then you can invite folks to come and have some thoughts about that as a priority for your city.
Would anyone like to come forward and address the topic of public safety tonight? Please come forward.
Joan Nelson, 1058 Mill Street. This is about public safety and just basically about our town. My husband Don and I have lived in Selma for 67 years, long time. We raised 3 sons here in Selma. We loved our town then. It was a thriving and amazing community. Most of the community was made up of hardworking middle-class people, families. I started out by telling you that I want to start out by telling you I've attended numerous city council meetings in the last 4 years. I have stood up at the meetings, voicing my opinion and trying to get more police on the streets and better public safety. I have also written a number of emails to city managers in the past and to our current city manager. But nothing really has changed in Selma, except life has gotten worse. So I thought I would tell you about Selma the way I feel about it now. Years ago, when I was asked where I was from, I would say Selma. And if anybody would say anything against our city, I would stand strong. I loved our town. However, now I am one of those people on the other side. I am one of those who wished I had moved down the road, just down the road. Well, I didn't move down the road. My husband and I love where we live in Selma. We have a wonderful neighborhood. However, I moved my business down the road to Kingsburg about a year ago. And I am here to tell you there is a huge difference. They have pride in their city. They have a downtown that is thriving with new businesses and restaurants. And yes, there is a much safer feeling working in Kingsburg. I am not saying they don't have problems, but it is far less than Selma. I can actually leave my place of business at any time of the day or evening and not worry about the tweakers walking down the street. Does it make me sad what has happened to Selma? Yes, but like my husband said, we cannot be in denial of where we live. The #1 problem in this city is public safety. Honestly, who would want to raise a family in Selma or start a business? You can tell that by families moving to Fowler, Clovis, or Kingsburg. Our public safety in Selma has gone downhill. We lose great officers to nearby cities that we had employed for years because of lack of better pay and low morale within the department. We experience drive-by shootings that our citizens are concerned about, and yet we get no response from our police chief, none. We as tax-paying citizens deserve better. It's very disappointing that our once thriving city that we all loved has gone in this direction. I now wonder, is there any turning back for Selma, or is this what we have to live with?
Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up, address the council?
A good concerned citizen, everybody that listen.
Council, I'm Pastor Marty, Christ-Driven Assembly of God, 1801 2nd Street. I'd like to address the area of public safety. I came to Selma because of just what was said. You know, me and my wife used to live in Kingsburg, and we decided this was the place God needed us to be the most. I realize that, and I don't discount just what was just said because it's true, but it's a cultural difference too. Everybody knows those are two whole different apples and oranges. I used to live in Kingsburg, so I know. I'm related to everybody there. But the bottom line is this, is that in public safety here is that we, as our church experiences continually, accidents and car crashes in this speedway that goes down right through McCall, and as it transitions straight through to 2nd Street, we've recorded several cars that are moving 70 plus miles an hour. There's no stop signs through there, and we are constantly getting people hit there. We've had 2 deaths since we've been to church there. One was on a Sunday night. A fellow was killed there, and I've asked for some type of help in that area of just slowing that street down. Apparently back in the 80s, we decided to take all the parking out. It killed that park where just no one really uses it because you can't park around the park there where the skate park is. That intersection at 2nd and Sylvia, when we were attracted to that piece of property in 2012, one of the first things I told my congregation was we have a park right across the street. It'll be great for our children's ministries and things like that. And at our church, we're not allowed, I tell, in fact, our children's coordinators here, I said, we're not allowed to go across there to that street because we can't take that chance of putting anybody going across there. There's just too much of this going on everywhere, where public safety, where people are being hit and ran down, and we just need to slow these cars down in this community. And when you look at 2nd Street from the stoplight right here at Wilkins, you don't have anything all the way through at Whitson, at Wilkins Drive-In, but when you don't have anything till you get all the way around the curve to Nebraska Avenue, and I think that's stop sign is Thompson, I'm not sure, isn't it? Yeah. And it's passing, just that street alone's passing all these schools, skate parks, churches, and getting around into these closed neighborhoods. And these guys are on a 5-lane highway that are going through there. And I looked whenever Kingsburg and Fowler is brought up a while ago, one of the things that really changed, I think, that is that when you look at the way people come on and off the freeway, there's stop signs there to give everybody on and off. So I just think it's something we should look at because of the safety issues are needed, but also the safety issues for our traffic.
So traffic is your number one concern there. Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to stand up and be recognized? Sonny, maybe we can bring that up.
Pastor Joe Alvarez at 13838 South Locan. I like to just say that we live in a great city. City of Selma is a great community. It's an awesome community, and we have some problems like anywhere else. We can compare whatever, but I think that we're blessed to have such a great chief. I think he's one of the best chiefs that we have in the Fresno County, if not the best. I think he's one of the guys that can be anywhere, but he has chosen to dedicate his life and his service to the city of Selma, and we're grateful for that. And we have joined together, and we've picked up a couple of hundred signatures that says that people signed to the following. Well, Pastor Marty, you put front and back, huh? It says, we, the undersigned residents of Selma, California, are asking our city council and city manager to support our police chief and police department in their continued effort in crime reduction in our city. Bi-weekly reports given to our city council and our city manager support an overall reduction in crime throughout 2018 calendar year. We ask that you remember to support the city of Selma, support the Selma Police Department, and our chief. We just are grateful citizens of the city of Selma, and we work together with the chief of police. We're out there in the streets, and to those people that are tweakers, they're citizens. They're people that need the Lord, and they're people that need our love. And we're here to give that together with our chief. And we're making the city of Selma, excuse me, ma'am. We're making the city of Selma a great city together as citizens. Matthew chapter 11, Jesus Christ himself had to go through in front of a hostile crowd. And there was the best 2 men on the face of this earth, John the Baptist and Jesus Christ, that walked. But people weren't happy. They were criticizing them. They criticized John the Baptist because he didn't eat, he didn't drink. They called him, they said he was possessed by a demon. They said that Jesus Christ himself, that was eating and drinking, was a drunken and a gluttonous. And I'm going to tell you one thing. They were the best two people that walked on the face of this earth. I'm going to tell you right now, if our Lord and Savior got a raw deal, I'm not expecting Chief Garner to be loved by everyone. But I do expect everybody to respect his authority and respect him for what he is, our chief. So I thank you guys for being here, and I thank you, Chief, for your great job.
So,
You guys like the signatures here? I'll give them to you
Are you
guys.
gonna produce that? for the
There's still
city
some more
council?
out there, so we'll get them together to you guys.
Will you be producing that for the city council? And is that for public review?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And those who signed that, residents of Selma or your parishioners? Just clarify.
Residents and parishioners.
Both. People from Selma and people outside of Selma. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Would anyone else like to get up and be heard about public safety?
I am Keoki Katle Lapono, Christ-driven Assembly of God Church, the associate pastor there, 1801 2nd Street. I would like to just address the topic of public safety. I've known Chief for going on maybe 4 years now. I've worked with him week in and week out on different things involving the community of Selma. I addressed the city council a few months ago about this topic, and we're in the same situation. It's like what I said last time. It's not about how many police officers we have. You can put a police officer in front of every house in the city of Selma. A shooting's still going to happen. People are still going to get hurt. People are still going to get it's going to happen. You can't stop violence like that. You stop violence with God's word. You stop violence with God in the community. Supporting Chief in what he's doing. Pastor Joe addressed this, talking about just what Chief has accomplished in this community. And as you can tell, people begin to raise their voices. And that's actually one of the problems with the community is people not wanting, on the topic of tweakers and them walking through the streets. It's our job as people. God has put us on this earth to change their lives, to be the light to them, to open our doors for them. That's our job as people. Our only mission on this earth is to fulfill God's call for our lives. And the problem with this community is we have too many people who are not willing to stand for this community, for God. They're willing to push those people aside because those are the ones that are causing problems. So their answer is to push them out of the community, not to change their lives. And that's the problem with our community, not the police chief. And Chief, I support you, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Paula Rogers. I live here in Selma. I just want to say this isn't, for me, it's not really about the police chief. It's not about for God or against God. I'm a God-fearing woman. And part of why I'm here is because, as everybody mentioned, safety is a big issue here in Selma. And maybe you can't stop criminal activity, but you can certainly seize it. You can make a difference in it, and something is going wrong in this city, Chief. I think you know it. I mean, there's no way you can't know it. We have to take some kind of proactive approach to stopping crime here, and I'm not saying you're not working on it, but sometimes we have to change our direction, and sometimes we have to turn around and change what we're doing. So I'm looking to mayor and council members here that the community voted you in. You guys said safety was a priority. I hope you guys will do what you need to do to protect the citizens of Selma and work with the chief or work with whoever sits in the chief's chair, whatever it may be, but these citizens, we deserve safety. You're not gonna get economic development, you're not gonna get all of the issues with blight and everything taken away if you don't address public safety. public safety needs to be corrected. It can be corrected, but we have to stand up to it. I brought it up before in one of my council meetings that I attended. We need gang injunctions here. We have an issue with gangs, and denying it or saying that things aren't going on isn't going to change it. First part of making change is accepting and owning and taking the responsibility to make a change. I've heard it's not cost effective, we don't have enough money. Hey, we're worth the money. We need to protect our youth. Youth are turning to gangs because that's where they feel safe. It's a well-known statistic that people turn to where they find safety, and if we don't protect the youth from the gangs, then that's where they turn to. So we need to do something, and we need to change our direction or just wake up. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, good to see you. Hope everyone's doing good. My name is Kealoha Ka'olele Pono. I'm from Christ Church and Assemblies of God Church. This is my brother and my father. I'm associate pastor there. I would like to also speak on behalf of Chief Gardner, my friend. My father was showing me a picture yesterday of our great-grandfather's old youth group. And they were all in suits and ties, and the ladies were in dresses, and they all looked nice. And my dad said, why don't youth groups look like that today? They're all in sweaters and sweatpants and Nikes. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Dad, like you've told me, this generation's changed hugely. Our young people today are not growing up like they used to, with respect and honor and discipline. Instead, they're growing up like what that wonderful woman said. They're turning to gangs because they feel safe there. And I agree with the people behind me too, and with my brother. This doesn't feel safe to walk around in this community. And I wonder to myself, why? We as people can make a difference, yes, by coming together, by being unified. All of us here in this room have different beliefs, different ways of living life, different ways of seeing things, different churches, different denominations, but we can all agree on a common goal to do better, to choose to work together. But I'm not saying anything that we've never heard before from other presidents and other leaders and people who have encouraged. My point here today is I'm just a young man, 21 years old, speaking here tonight. And I wonder to myself why I'm not somewhere in a gang right now, or a thug, or with a gun in my hand, or a pair of drugs, or alcohol. It's because I had a father who decided a long time ago when he married my mother, he said, I will not let my children grow up the way I did. Once he changed his generations, he changed my generation. And once he did that, I will change my generation. My kids will grow up right. My sons and my daughters will not know violence. They will not understand it because they will be filled with the power of Jesus Christ in their lives. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he or she shall go. And when they are old, they will not depart from it. It's not my fault that my mom and dad were some of the only parents that got the memo. The Bible shows us how to raise our children, so why don't we do it right? I'm not a parent, but I know that when I have my sons or my daughters, I'm going to do it right. So what's my point? Who do we blame in this situation? Do we blame Chief? Why not? Why not blame Chief? Or why not blame the teenagers that are in the drive-by shootings? Who do we blame in this? I got to say for myself, and my dad said last Sunday, if my sons turn against God into violence and to crime, I take full responsibility as the parent who trained them and made a mistake because I failed somewhere, and I resigned my position as a pastor. It is not Chief's fault. It is the parents of this community. They are not coming from some terrorist group out there somewhere. They are coming from the hallways of our own homes into the streets of Selma. I do not feel safe walking on the streets, and again to say I wonder why. Train them in the ways of the Lord, and they will turn against evil. I've never taken a drug. I've never taken a bit of alcohol. I've never been in a fight in my life. But I am a pastor, a youth pastor, a worship leader, and I love Jesus Christ with my whole heart because this man right here gave it to me. You give your kids Jesus, and you have a better community. Praise the Lord, and thank you, council, for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Yolanda Torres, 2266 Mitchell Avenue. Okay, well, here we are again. With the new year, we have a new city council, a new city manager, and a new mayor. So I hope that means there will be change to better the city of Selma. As you know, for years, my fight has and always will be for public safety. I was born and raised in this community. I've been here for 52 years. I've raised 4 wonderful children. We've been involved in our church activities. I've been part of the Selma Police Department volunteer, domestic violence, care for kids, president of our schools, coaches, everything you can think of. This is my community and I love it. So this is why I'm fighting. We need to fight for public safety and accountability within the police department. With all the shootings in November and December of 2018, in such a short period of time, we found it necessary to get a community meeting together at Lincoln Park with the media to address our concern. I would like to thank City Manager Teresa Galavan, City Council Member Guerra, Mayor Scott Robertson, Council Member Jim Avalos, and City Councilman Louis Franco, who were all in attendance. But I must say, our community was extremely disappointed that our Chief of Police nor anyone within his department showed up to address our concerns. This is once again an example of why we lost trust and respect in our Chief of Police. In a recent statement released by Chief Gardner, he stated that different agencies would be patrolling our streets through the holidays. When I called to discuss this matter with him, he stated that these agencies would be on an on-call basis. Mind you, we were in the middle of several shootings within a span of days. So to say they would be on on-call basis was once again an example of his poor leadership. What is interesting is that for years, us citizens have been asking for additional officers to help patrol our streets due to spike in crime. What I do not understand is that if we don't have additional officers available, why would Chief Gardner or someone from his administration have an officer stand watch for hours at the Art Center so alcohol could be served at a brunch? Or in December in 2018, once again, either Chief Gardner or someone from his administration had an additional officer assigned to patrol our streets, but that one officer was taken off our streets here in Selma to assist Reedley Police Department in a DUI checkpoint where multiple agencies were already in assistance. If that was not his call directly, he should still be held accountable for that decision as he directs his administration, which falls under mismanagement. Regarding the police department, we are at ground zero, as we all know. After almost 3 years, receiving a grant for a new police department, which no one knows the status of because Chief Gardner has failed to keep city council, city managers, and citizens updated on the progress, or lack of progress, I should say. Us citizens do not know anything about it, but I do know this: enough is enough. After 5 years, we taxpayers and businesses pay our taxes and we pay his salary. We feel that we are not getting what we are paying for. Most of you council members and citizens here today are business owners, so you understand this. This is a business. This is nothing personal. This is a business like any other business. If an individual is not performing up to their full potential, nor are they performing their duties set forth on their job description or contract, they need to be removed from their position. This is where change needs to happen, and it's going to come from you if it does. In 5 years since Chief Gardner has been assigned, numerous officers with many years, some up to 15 years of experience, have departed. Dispatchers have come and gone, leaving them shorthanded. Officers are being overworked and working overtime, and wait times for officers to respond are extremely long. City Council Member Trujillo, who is new, Excuse me, sir.
I'll
Was,
I'll go after you.
okay, that's fine.
Let's be respectful, please.
Thank you.
of people
City
speaking.
Council Member
Like there
Trujillo,
were of you, sir.
who was not able to attend our meeting, but I was able to have a discussion with him, and I thank you for your time, regarding his thoughts and concerns about public safety. Mr. Trujillo, I was happy to hear that you agreed that Chief Gardner should have never taken the position of city manager, which you stated made the department weak. You also questioned the evaluation process of Chief Gardner from Mr. Pereira. You were also happy to hear that the community was talking to the news and that you would work hard for us on curfew and try to request more vigilance on gangs in our city, and that it was time for strong leadership within the department. We discussed how you felt that we need to hold City Council accountable, and that it's time to make the right choices to better the future of Selma. We discussed how we need stronger policies within the police department, and bad leadership has created this problem along with a lot of conflict within that department as well. I hope I can hold you to those words. When discussing the chief and what I felt the council needed to do, you stated that if the council felt they needed to replace him, that they needed to do it quickly so we can better the community of Selma. So with that said, we, the undersigned citizens of Selma, submit this petition to remove Chief Gardner as Chief of Police from the Selma Police Department effective immediately. Unfortunately, circumstances leave us no choice after 5 years. We have lost all trust and faith and confidence in Chief Gardner's ability to lead this department and serve as Chief of Police. By fostering an atmosphere of hostility and unethical behavior, Chief Gardner has brought morale to an all-time low. Retention and recruitment of qualified personnel is suffering. That in turn jeopardizes the safety of our community. Chief Gardner's unfair treatment of department personnel and his use of internal affairs investigation to intimidate officers can no longer be tolerated. The Selma Police Department used to be one of great pride for those who worked there and looked upon by outside law enforcement officers as a desirable place to work. We can assure the citizens of Selma that those of us who have placed our signatures at the bottom of this petition are fully aware the difference the truth makes. This is why we must do what we have to for the citizens, our families, and our community. I want to make one thing clear. This is nothing personal against Chief Gardner. He has done some wonderful things with churches and organizations and other community events. But this is not part of his job duty. He needs to prioritize, and that is public safety. We no longer believe Chief Gardner values his role. The city and department are no longer his top priority. His conduct in the last 5 years has clearly shown that. Unfortunately, when good officers are looking over their shoulders at an unsupportive chief, they spend less time seeking out the undesirable elements in our community. Chief Gardner's administration does a grave disservice to his city's officers and more especially to the public. Those officers are committed to and sworn to protect. So with that said, I want to present to Mayor Robertson a couple of hundred signatures from citizens in Selma, which we have a couple hundred more coming in. But this is a copy for you. I apologize, I was getting some last minute, so if we can get copies to the rest of the city council members, that would be greatly appreciated. So Shane, do you mind passing that over to Chief? I appreciate it. But like, once again, I do feel that we need to work together.
And email it to us.
Yeah.
Could you give it to Raina, Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I do feel that after 5 years, we need change. I think 5 years and the history of the police department has said a lot. And like I said, Chief, this is nothing personal against you, but we are concerned about public safety. We do have some victims' families here today that I know it's really emotional for them to speak because they haven't gotten any answers. There has been no resolution to the murders of their family members. But they are here today, and that says a lot. So I think that you really need to take in consideration why you're all up in those seats. It's because the citizens voted you there. And sometimes things have to change to get better. And we believe that this is one of those times. So we are asking you to remove the chief from his position effective immediately. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Erica Cabrera, 1303 Hicks Street. Actually, I wasn't planning on speaking this evening. I was just coming to listen, and I felt a little uncomfortable having a family member on the dais. But I do want to make some things clear. I thought this was a goal-setting session. Whether you're pro or against the chief, I don't think that should be the focus. If we know that public safety is an issue, we should address that head on and make it more productive. Issues like this is what's holding our community back. We can talk about personnel issues. I think that should be the discretion and the purpose of closed session. It shouldn't be done in a public setting to attack an individual. And I also thought that we should abide by the 3-minute rule, because I know that that had previous speaker did go beyond that time frame. Thank you.
I didn't mean any disrespect, Mayor Robinson. What I'm saying is the same thing. Whenever I got up, I was wanting to speak on public safety and pedestrian. I didn't know all the other stuff was going to be, so that's was my point. I thought we were addressing public safety.
Sir, we're allowing public input tonight regarding public safety.
Good evening. My name is Joe Gonzalez. I live at 2305 Nebraska in the barrio. One thing I would like all of you to hear me out is you are sitting here where I came to a lot of weddings. This used to be a hall, a recreation. Okay, I attended, I'm a police club member from years back. When I was a kid, across town, we would come, they gave us a brand new shirt and a police club cap. We're very proud. And things have changed. I'd like to welcome new members. I hope things will change for the better. And I would like to say goodbye to the 2 bench warmers that left, which never helped any. The barrio recently has become very quiet, thanks to Jimmy Avalos. Me and him walked the streets a lot of days, looking for areas that needed to be improved, and he got no communication with the chief for whatever reason it was. I don't know, but that resulted in bringing in the sheriff from Fresno, and they did their job. Believe me, it's nice and quiet. I would like the rest of the city to be just as quiet, because we didn't have, in my days, we didn't have a sheriff department or magic team. We had a constable, and Constable Bentley. He picked me up a couple of times, you know. But I have gone through 4 chiefs since I've been here. I love this city, and I hope that all of you get together, even the chief gets together with you and helps improve this city and make it safer for all of us to enjoy it, and our kids to enjoy it, our grandkids to enjoy it, because I'm 77 years old, and I intend to live my years out here in Selma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Father Guadalupe Rios, 2441 Dockery, St. Joseph's Church. Just on the topic of public safety and either increasing police presence or whatever will be the result of the conversation, I would hope that in addition to if more officers are hired or made present, that some kind of training would be provided where certain interactions with the public, such as type of when they would pull you over for basically profiling purposes. This past October, more or less, I got pulled over on my bicycle in the barrio area at 7 in the morning by Officer Lance Pierce because I passed the stop sign without stopping on it appropriately, according to him. It escalated from "what's your name" to Are you on parole, probation? To just throwing at me. I'm like, excuse me? What are you talking about? I'm just riding my bike. But it went from, like I said, identifying yourself, are you on parole, probation, fishing for a charge basically, or looking for something that he can either nail me on, he can search me on, or whatever it was. When I told him, you know what, I think you're harassing me. Well, that's when it turned into a ticket that was $250. I make $650 every 2 weeks. So $250 of my check, well, will go now to the state, I imagine. So I would just hope that some kind of training, sensitivity training, where individuals are not going to be pulled over for, I would say, reasons that are not just, where you're seeking something more than just that initial, okay, well, here's a little violation, but I know what I'm really looking for. I know what he was looking for. And now when I told him I was a priest, okay, and he backed off a little bit maybe. But minus this garb here, I get a very different reaction from police officers. And that's a bad thing, because it's based on appearance, based on your grooming, or based on whatever it may be. So imagine if we increase police presence in the barrio. Individuals, they kind of look like me, they dress like me. Stopping them for whatever given occasion or whatever given reason, and especially in an increased fashion, will only increase tensions, I imagine. And tensions are pretty much just not at a very good condition. I was told by a lot of people in Selma, hey, padre, stay out of the barrio, it's dangerous. I go there morning, evening, late at night, and ride my bike up and down to, the whole area. The only two people who ever harassed me there were a police officer and the Indian man who told me, do you live here? Because he has a little, I guess, area where his house is being built or has been built. And he wanted to know, do you belong here? Do you live here? I said, of course I live here. I live in Selma. But his issue was something else. And it was about fear of the other. This guy was looking at me and he felt I didn't belong. Why? Because of what I was wearing, whatever it may have been. It was fear of the other. So I just hope that with regard to police presence in the community, that certain kind of training will be made available to certain police officers to ensure that violations don't occur. And also at the very same time, hopefully we can harness this community concern, because it's everyone's concerned about it, and really get creative and not just say, let's just enforce. Because if you throw more police presence, for example, into the barrio, you have a lot of people who are immigrant populations there. When you see cars that have an official insignia on there, you don't really create a sense of safety. You create a sense of fear. Is it immigration? Is it ICE? Is it who is it? And so you have people behind their windows looking out saying, am I even safe to go outside now? It's a little scarier now, because now it becomes a little policed community. So just those two concerns, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for your input.
Colleen Nelson, 1712 Oak Street, here in town. I had not planned to say anything either. But when the police chief was blamed for the police station not being built, I felt that somebody should have said, no, it is not his fault. Huron got the same time, they got their money the same time we did. Their police station is built. If there's a problem with the police station, it rests with the city council, not with the police chief. That being said, I've lived here 44 years, just not very long compared to Joe. But I felt very safe when I came here. I taught here for 37 years. I still continue to work in the schools. I don't feel safe at night anymore. I'm not going to be walking around at night. And I think the safety is completely tied into the economic development. When you talk about Selma in this county, we are known as the place where all the parolees are sent, and they live here. And why do they live here? Because we've got the most Section 8 housing. So if we can't bring in some better housing, if we can't bring in more businesses, we can't improve. And we don't have a very good image anymore. And it just hurts my heart, because I've lived here longer than anywhere. This is my town. I love these kids I work with. But I think we need to be making some better decisions as to how we spend our money, use our time, enforce our codes, and get back on track with what we're supposed to be doing here today.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I might, I just wanted to share that we're about an hour into our generally hour and a half. Just want to give you that update, so if maybe the 3 minutes.
You know, I think the public comment has been because this is so important. So that's why we're taking public comment tonight. But duly noted, maybe we can keep it down after this. If there are not too many, maybe we take 5 more comments after this.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, under the city council policies via a resolution that was adopted, in order to extend the time, either the speaker has to ask for it or the council on its own motion would need to extend the 3-minute time limit.
I haven't been enforcing it at all tonight, but that's duly noted. Thank you.
Hi.
Proceed.
My name is Teresa Salas. I live at 3221 Lee Street here in Selma. I grew up in Selma. I lived in the Barrio. I worked for the city for 20 years. I've been retired for about 11 years now. When I worked for the city, I worked in human resources. The retention that we've talked about, police officers, that's been an issue for the last 30 years. It's nothing new. The city doesn't have the money to compete with the city of Selma, with the city of Fresno, city of Clovis, big cities. They get the police officers get their starts here. They are hired here because we're desperate for police officers. Once they have a few years under their belt, they're gone. That has nothing to do with the city of Selma not being a good place to work. We just don't have the money to pay them the money that they want, the money that they need to support their families. It's just something that's happened for as many years as I have been around. So blaming the chief because they're leaving, it's not his fault that we can't pay them what they want. That's where the economic development comes in. If we have businesses that are paying sales tax into our city, we'll have the money to hire more police officers, to give them decent pay raises, to hopefully keep them in our community. But blaming one person, like was spoken earlier, it's not the chief's fault. It's not the chief's fault that we don't have good housing. My daughter just moved out of Selma. She grew up her whole life in Selma because there was no housing to meet the need that she had. She has a large family. She wanted a big house. Nothing was available in Selma, and nobody had any prospect of building anything in the near future. So she went someplace else. So these are things that are out of control of one person. You can't say it's the mayor's fault that there's no housing in the city of Selma. It's a community effort that's going to take, like you guys mentioned, bringing us into the 21st century, which is something that I talked about when I was running for council. We need to make this community efficient, get people who want to come to our community and be able to serve them and serve them quickly and efficiently to make them want to come to our community. Yolanda mentioned she has 200 signatures that want the police chief removed immediately. Well, we had 200 that back him up. So where does that leave us? You know, even 400, that's not even 2% of the population of the city of Selma. So, I mean, when you have 10% maybe, 2,500 people who've signed a petition that say they have no trust in our police chief, then we can talk. But 200 people for and 200 people against, sorry, that doesn't cut it with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple pictures I'm going to hang on the dice, but I want everybody to see these. Okay. So these are for you guys to keep for the rest of your meeting tonight. That's all right. I'll just put them right here. My name is Brandon Shoemaker, 1326 Goldridge Street here in Selma. I'm here today as a concerned parent of my children and for my community. Everybody in this room, our kids all go to school together here in Selma. We're neighbors, acquaintances, and friends here in Selma. We shop at the same stores and eat at the same restaurants, again, in Selma. We volunteer of our time and talents, and we give of our finances to local, worthwhile organizations, again, in Selma. Some of us in this room have literally given this community blood, sweat, and tears. Leadership and accountability rests at the top of the police department. My concerns, I feel, are painfully apparent based on the children of Selma that have been lost through violence and murder in the last couple of years in this town. And I'm not going to use the word homicide, that's a legal term. These children were murdered. The pictures that you see, I've got a couple pictures for you if you don't know who they are as new council members. Desiree Austin was murdered at age 15 here in Selma. Cesar Perez Mendoza, who's also pictured here, was murdered at 14 here in Selma. Robert Hernandez, who I don't have a picture of, was taken from our community and murdered at age 14. By the way, it was next door to a Selma police officer's house, so you can imagine how his spouse felt, especially when somebody was arrested and the DA's office refused to file charges. As far as adults go, Ricardo Leon, murdered here in Selma at 22 recently, and Octavio Gonzalez, taken from his family and community at 21. This doesn't even come close to the multiple shooting victims we've seen in the last several months and couple of years in Selma who have survived their injuries. And I've sat in back and saw a couple of them get so, excuse my language, pissed off, they walked out because they were so upset. Of concern to me more than anything is there are no pleas from the police department for help or information in solving any of these crimes. There's no information about the murder of these children on Central Valley Crime Stoppers website, and I encourage each of you to look right now. If you go to Crimes of Interest, there is one homicide that is unsolved that's posted on that, and it offends me personally because I give money to that organization by attending their annual dinner. There's no reenactments that have been done or airing on Channel 24, the media partner with Valley Crime Stoppers. There's not a single informational poster hanging at the PD asking for information. No information, pictures, plea for information to the public on the city website or the police department Facebook page, nor is there any outreach on a regular basis to the TV, print, or radio news as a means of trying to keep the information flowing. There are many free outlets to help get the word out and ask for help on these types of cases. So, Ms. Ryle, my point to you is transparency, accountability, and the need to utilize existing resources that are of little charge or free. State of California Governor's Office offers up to a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction in a homicide. Selma is a past recipient of these monies, and I would cite you to do your homework and look at the Rachel Lambera homicide of 1988. There's a 501c3 in the Bay Area called Citizens Against Homicide, CAH.org, which helps put up large freeway-sized billboards to advertise cases and rewards. The SPOA is a prior donor to this organization. There's also several programs which should be implemented at the police department to aid in crime prevention efforts. Adopt a Cop, Combat Auto Theft, a more robust and active Neighborhood Watch program, a Junior Police Academy program, a Citizens Police Academy, neighborhood video registration to assist detectives, and a Business Watch. Fresno Sheriff has seen great success in the Everbridge notification program via text and emails. Our school district has seen great success with their robocall program. This will only increase the speed at which our community is informed, can take precautions, and be good witnesses for the police department. I'll end by saying we require transparency and accountability. We demand positive change at the police department, and we are Selma proud because this is where we live and raise our families. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I think we'll close public input and we'll refer the matter back to council. Sir, can you make it brief? We've let everybody go on tonight.
All right. I'm number 3 when you said I'll have 5 more. Good evening, council. Buenas noches. Mayor, everybody here. My name is Frank Hernandez, 3202 Goldridge Street, and I did plan on saying something. Recently, in the past 3 months, people have come up to me, because I'm all over the place. I'm driving up and down in the tow truck. Frank, can you support us with this? What do you think about this? You know, who's doing that? Everybody. And it's difficult for me to jump on somebody's bandwagon, this side or that side. I look at things in a common sense manner. Everybody says, El Padre said, profiling. They pulled over. Damn, we got pulled over a week ago. 3 officers, professional, you know, everything. They did everything stellar. They didn't. It wasn't a car that they've never seen in my neighborhood. You know, the plate was from a different vehicle. Apparently, huge mistake. They came up and they were completely professional about it. You know, there's a bald-headed Mexican in the front seat. Weren't drawn or any of that. But in my line of work, everybody's talking about crime and shootings, and they're coming from the outside.